Namo Buddhaya. So welcome to today's Sutta class. Last time we learned about one of the most deepest and most difficult not concepts, but rather difficult realities to understand. Okay, we learned about the 5 aggregates of clinging. Okay, so if a person contemplates, analyzes these 5 aggregates of clinging and understands that there is absolutely nothing to be attached to, there's absolutely nothing to call me, mine, or I in these 5 aggregates of clinging, then that person can become free from this journey of birth and death. He can put a stop to rebirth. Okay, so that is one of the most difficult things to do. Okay, but of course, our great teacher, the Supreme Buddha, understood this reality through his own wisdom and understood the reality and became free from this samsara. And after having crossed over the shore of samsara, the Supreme Buddha taught us so that we could also understand this reality and escape from this samsara. Okay, so in order for a person to understand the 5 aggregates of clinging, it takes a lot of wisdom. It takes a lot of mindfulness for a person to understand the 5 aggregates of clinging. Okay, so it's not an easy thing to analyze or contemplate. So for that, you need to learn little by little, gradually, about the 5 aggregates of clinging, and first improve your knowledge on it, and then gradually contemplate on it and understand the impermanence of it. Okay, so today I thought I will share with you a teaching of the Supreme Buddha, which is not as difficult to practice. So this is a good start for many people. If a person practices this teaching of the Supreme Buddha, which we'll be talking about today, then what this does is it really helps that person. It opens up the path for him to go to that place where he can understand the 5 aggregates of clinging and escape from suffering. It's like this: if you want to go to a certain place, there's a certain path to it, right? So if you enter that path, you can be definitely sure that you will end up at the place that you want to go. But if you don't enter that path, then no one can give you the certainty that you will end up at the place that you want. So if you learn this teaching, if you practice this teaching, it will really open up the path. It will help you to enter the path to reach Nibbana. Okay, so this is a very practical sutta which everybody can practice. Everybody can incorporate this teaching into their lives and practice it in their everyday life. And if you do so, you will definitely benefit. Okay, so some of you might have heard this sutta before. Some of you may have not. Okay, so either way, this will help all of us. Okay, so this teaching, this sutta is found in the Anguttara Nikaya of the Pali Canon, and it's found in the Book of Fives. Okay, and in which book was the Penapindupama Sutta found? Do you remember? Penapindupama Sutta is the sutta we discussed last time. Which book is that found in? Is that sutta found in? That sutta is found not in Anguttara Nikaya. Remember, I said it's found in the Sangyutta Nikaya. Okay, so I asked this question because when you're learning these suttas, you should also have a good idea about how these teachings are divided and which books contain which kind of suttas. So remember, I said last time, in Sangyutta Nikaya there are 4 books, and in the 3rd book is called the Kanda Sangyutta, and in that book it contains many suttas about the 5 aggregates of clinging. Okay, so as you learn suttas, you also should have a good understanding and knowledge about where these suttas can be found, which books, so that you can always refer back to it. Okay, so this sutta that we're going to be talking about is known as the Taana Sutta, and it's found in the Anguttara Nikaya of the Pali Canon. Okay, so in this sutta, the Supreme Buddha explains, because there are these 5 themes that should often be reflected upon by a woman or a man, by a householder, or one gone forth. Okay, so there are these 5 things that should be often reflected upon by who? By a woman or a man, by a householder, or one gone forth. What does this mean? So you understand what man or woman is. A householder. Householder means someone who's living a lay life. So that means like you. Someone who's living with sensual pleasures, someone who's living in a home, enjoying sensual pleasures. That's what a householder or a lay person is. So someone who's living with parents and children in a homely environment, enjoying sensual pleasures. So the Supreme Buddha here says, whether you're a man or a woman, or whether you're a householder, that means whether you're someone who's living a homely life, or one gone forth. Gone forth means someone who has left the homely life and has become ordained. So monks and nuns. Okay. Should reflect often about these 5 things. Okay, so now this is very much applicable to you, because the Supreme Buddha here directly states that whether you are a householder or whether you are an ordained person, that's regardless of whether you're an ordained person or a lay person, you should reflect on these things very often. Okay, often means very frequently, right? So the Supreme Buddha asks, what are these 5? Okay, so we're going to learn what these 5 are. The first one is, Supreme Buddha explains, the first thing a person should often reflect on is often reflect that I am subject to old age. I am not exempt from old age. Okay, so what's the first thing you should often reflect? I am subject to old age and I am not exempt from old age. So think about the reality that I'm someone who's growing old. I'm not someone free from old age. Okay, so now who should think this? Whether you're a man or a woman, or whether you're a lay person or ordained person. Now, does it say here that you should only think this when you're old? No, doesn't say that. So if you're a man or a woman, regardless of how old you are, you may be young, you may be in your middle age, you may be in your old age, this is something you should often think, that I'm aging. Now, do most people like to think that they're aging? Ask yourself. Ask yourself and say, do you like to think of the reality that you're aging? Right? No, most people don't like to accept the fact that they have aged when they actually have gotten old. Or when they see a wrinkle for the first time in their face, they panic and they don't want to face that reality. That's why there's so many procedures and so many things for anti-aging, right? So people want to stop aging. Why? Because they don't want to accept that they're aging. So sometimes when people are very, very old, they try to hide the fact by using, things like cosmetics and different procedures, they try to hide the fact that they are old because they don't want to accept the fact that they are growing old. Okay? So the Supreme Buddha explained this is not something you should think when you are old, but when you are young also, you should think of the fact that one day you're going to be old. Because from the moment we are born in the mother's womb, we are growing old, right? By one day, we have grown older. And then by 1 year, we have grown older. And then by 10 years, we have grown older. So from the moment we have been conceived, we are growing old. Okay, so the Supreme Buddha asks us to think of this reality. So when you see very old people, having difficulty walking, having difficulty seeing, do you ever think, have you ever thought that I'm also going to be like that? Have you? Raise your hand up if you have thought that. From the gestures? Most people, when they see a very old person, they just feel pity on them. They just feel compassionate towards them, but they don't think of the reality that I am also going to be like them. When you see a person 120 years old or 80 years old with a wrinkled face and shivering arms, they just feel compassionate towards that person, but they never think that I'm also going to be like that. So the Supreme Buddha explains it's something that you should definitely think. When you see an old person, tell yourself, I'm also going to be like that. You'll see why you should think this, how our minds change when we think this reality. Okay, so the first thing you should think is think of the reality that I am aging, I am not free from aging. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one is Supreme Buddha explains, think, often reflect. Now, the Supreme Buddha here says often. So this how often means frequently, not like once a month. Okay, often, every day you should think this. Every day we do many things. We get up every day in the morning. We eat every day in the morning to the entire day, right? We dress every day. We get dressed every day, and we do so many things every day. So every time you go in front of the mirror, every day you look how beautiful you are. You look at your face and you see whether there are blemishes or there's anything to be, redone. In the same way, when you look in the mirror, you should remind yourself every day, I'm aging. It's not something the normal person does. Okay, but as those who are listening to the Dhamma, of course, you are not an ordinary person. You're not a normal person. In the sense, you're trying to find something more than the ordinary. So then you should also practice something that's above the ordinary person's mindset. Okay. So the Supreme Buddha explains think. The first one is think that I'm aging, I'm subject to aging, I'm not free from it. And the second is Supreme Buddha explains think I'm subject to illness. I'm not exempt from illness. That means I'm not free from illness. That is one day at one point I'm going to fall sick. Now, how many of you all think about the fact that you will fall sick one day? Most people don't like to think this, right? Why? Because they are scared of illnesses. They are scared of sicknesses. Okay, when we take one day, sometimes we get to hear so and so has come down with cancer. So and so has gotten a heart attack. So and so has this disease. So and so has that disease. We get to hear a lot, right? But ask yourself, do you ever think that I can also get this disease. I can also become ill like this. Sometimes you hear so and so has become paralyzed. Have you ever thought of the fact that I can also be paralyzed? Have you ever thought? No. Why? Because we don't like that. We don't want to accept that reality. So we block it. We don't think that reality. But the reality is that tomorrow we can be paralyzed. Because this body, remember, like as we learned last time, this rupa, these forms, it's not, there's no, we can't control it the way we want. When the cause is there, the result is there. When the cause is not there, the result is not there. There is no self in here. Okay, so the Supreme Buddha explains a woman or a man, whether you're ordained or living a lay life, you should often think of the fact that you are going to fall sick, you're going to fall ill, and you're not free from it. Okay, so that is the second thing. So these are not things that an ordinary person think, but these are things a person who's trying to practice the Dhamma should think. Okay. That's the second one. And the third one is, the Supreme Buddha explains, whether you're a man or a woman, a householder or one gone forth, you should often reflect, I'm subject to death. I'm not exempt from death. Okay, so that is, you should often reflect on death. Reflect on death meaning, always think I can die today. Now, if I say now, within 5 minutes, you're going to die. Within 5 minutes, you're going to die. Can you accept that reality? Can you die in 5 minutes? Are you ready to die? Are you ready to die?
No, Swami Minister.
Nobody is ready to die. That is because we don't think that we will die. We don't think that we can die at any moment. But the Supreme Buddha explains that this is something that can come to us at any moment. So the Supreme Buddha explains, think of that reality. Okay. When you think of this reality, then you don't become scared of death because you have thought in advance that death is something that will come to you. Okay. Now you'll see the Supreme Buddha explains the reason you should be thinking about these things. So that is the third thing. So the first one is thinking. What's the first one?
Old age.
Yes, often reflect that I'm growing old and I'm not exempt from growing old. Okay, that's the first one. The second one,
Subject to
illness.
sickness, diseases.
Always think I'm prone to falling ill. Okay, I'm subject to illness. I'm not free from it. That's the second one. And the third one is always think, often reflect that I will die and I'm not free from death. Okay. And the fourth one is Supreme Buddha explains, often think, I will one day have to be parted and separated from everyone and everything dear and agreeable to me. So often think that I will have to become separated from the ones I love and the things I love. So your parents, your husband, your wife, your children, okay? Your relatives, you will have to leave them one day. You can't be with them forever. And the things you love, what are the things you love? Your house, your vehicle, your money, your land, okay, your jewelry. Those are, so you have to accept the fact that one day you will have to leave those things. Sometimes when people are near their deathbed, they ask for their they ask for the key of their safe sometimes. Why? Because they don't want to leave that money. They want to take it with them. But can they? They can't. Why do they do that? Because they have not thought in advance that they will have to leave all of those things that they love and cherish so much. So the Supreme Buddha explains, think this reality beforehand. What is that reality? One day I will have to leave the ones I love and the things I love. We don't live in this world forever, right? From the moment we are born, we are growing old, and we're coming closer to our death. And that death could be in our youth, it could be in our uh, adulthood, or it could be in our old age. We don't know when, but definitely we will have to go one day. Okay, so the Supreme Buddha explains, realize that you will have to leave the ones and the things you love one day. How many of you think this reality? How many of you think of the fact that I will have to leave my loved ones?
I think.
Nobody. So I hope that at least after this sutta, you will try to reflect on this reality. It's very difficult to. It's very difficult to accept these realities, but the Supreme Buddha explains these are realities that you should often think and reflect on. Okay. And that's the fourth one. And the fifth one is, Supreme Buddha explains, often think whether you're a man or a woman, whether you are a householder or one gone forth, often reflect, I'm the owner of my own karma. Kammasaka manava satta. I'm the owner of my own karma. Okay, so if I do good things, I will get good results. If I do bad things, I will get bad results. So whatever I do, I will have to face the results. That's what thinking of karma means. When you do something, realize that you will have to face the results. So if you collect merit, if you do good things, then you will be faced with happy results. But if you do wrong things, bad things in your life, then you will have to be faced with bad consequences. So Supreme Buddha explains, think of this often. Because when you think of this often, you're very well mindful about what you say, about what you do, and about what you think. Okay, so Supreme Buddha explains, these are the 5 things that a person should often reflect on. Okay, the first one is think of the reality that I am someone who is subject to aging. I'm not exempt from aging. The second one is I'm someone who's prone to illness. I'm not free from it. The third one is I'm someone who's subject to death. I'm not free from it. And the fourth is I'm someone who will have to become separated from the ones I love and things I love. Okay, and the fifth one is I'm the owner of my own karma. Okay, so those are the 5 things you should often reflect on. So this is something you should think of every single day. Okay, if you can think this 10 times a day, if you can think this 20 times a day, okay, if you can reflect on this, it will really help you to develop your mind. Okay, you will see how. The Supreme Buddha explains, for the sake of what benefit should a woman or a man, a householder or one gone forth, often reflect that I'm subject to old age, I'm not exempt from old age. The Supreme Buddha explains, in their youth, beings are intoxicated with their youth. And when they're intoxicated with their youth, they engage in misconduct by body, speech, and mind. But when one often reflects upon this reality that one is aging, The intoxication with youth is either completely abandoned or diminished. It's for the sake of this benefit that one should think of the fact that I'm subject to old age, I'm not exempt from old age. So the Supreme Buddha explains, there's a defilement in our mind called intoxication with youth. That's why when a person reaches even his or her 80s or 90s, inside of him, he thinks he's still young. That's a defilement. So of course, when you're in your actual youth, of course you're completely intoxicated with youth. But this intoxication with youth continues with the person because it's a defilement in the mind. They don't want to accept the fact that they're aging. Okay. So even when a person is in the 80s and 90s, they think as if they are in their 40s or 30s or 40s. Okay. That's because of that intoxication with youth. So the Supreme Buddha explains when a person's mind is defiled by this intoxication with youth. Intoxication with youth means he always thinks I'm always very young. I'm always young. And when you're thinking I'm very youthful, I'm very young, the Supreme Buddha explains, then because of that youth, the person engages in misconduct. Now, if you take today's society, people, especially youth, are completely intoxicated with youth, and therefore they engage in so much misconduct. They go drinking, they use drugs, and they engage in sexual misconduct. But if a person actually think that in their youth, they think, one day I'm going to be like my grandmother. I'm going to be like my grandfather. I'm going to grow old. If a person thinks that reality, then that person can stop himself from engaging in his misconduct. As you know, in the present society, so many girls, because of intoxication with youth, right, they end up doing so many abortions. So if a young girl always think that one day I'm going to be like this, that really helps that person to be mindful, regain mindfulness, and helps that person to stop herself from doing wrong things in life. Okay, so Supreme Buddha explains the reason a person should think that one is aging and is not free from aging, it helps that person to get rid of or abandon that defilement called intoxication with youth. Okay, that's the first one. That's the benefit of thinking the first factor, which is aging. Then the Supreme Buddha explains, why should you reflect on the fact that you're subject to illness? The Supreme Buddha explains, for what sake, for the sake of what benefit should a person often reflect thus? That is, I'm subject to illness and I'm not exempt from illness. In a state of health, beings are intoxicated with their health. And when they're intoxicated with their health, they engage in misconduct by body, speech, and mind. So the Supreme Buddha explains, another defilement in our mind is the intoxication with health. That is, a person never thinks that he can become weak one day. A person never thinks that person can become helpless one day. And with that, what happens is that person engages in misconduct. He lies, he grows drinking, he engages in sexual misconduct, and he engages so many misconducts in his life because of not thinking that one day I will also be bedridden. Now, for you to understand this, for example, suppose a person who has a high authority Okay, so for example, say in your home environment, suppose you're someone who has the authority in the family. Okay, so you're the one who controls everything, and so with that, you speak to people harshly. It could be in the working environment also, right? So you speak to people harshly, and you try to control them, and you try to you blame them all the time, and you're always scolding them. So all of those things are misconduct through words, verbal misconduct, right? But if that same person thinks that although I am like this now, tomorrow I can be paralyzed and I can be bedridden. And if that happens to me, these same people are the ones who will have to help me. If a person thinks like that, would he ever blame those around him? Would he ever scold and make a big fuss about things? Would he? No. He will control his words. He will control his mind. Why? Because he always thinks of the fact that tomorrow I can fall sick, I can become bedridden. I would not be able to get up on my own. So if that happens, it's these people around me who will have to help me and take care of me. So when a person thinks of this reality, that really helps that person to control his bodily conduct. That's why the Supreme Buddha explains, think of this reality that I'm subject to illness, I'm not free from it. Then you're able to get rid of that intoxication with health. Okay, if a person is intoxicated with health, then that leads to misconduct. Okay, so now you can relate these things to yourself and see for yourself. Okay, that's the second one. So that's the second benefit. And the third one is the Supreme Buddha says, for what sake do I say one should often think that I'm subject to death? Okay, the Supreme Buddha explains, during their lives, beings are intoxicated with life. And when they're intoxicated with life, they engage in misconduct by body, speech, and mind. Okay, so there's another defilement within our mind called intoxication with life. What that is we think we're going to live forever. People don't like to think of the fact that they will die, even when they're in their deathbed. They don't like to think that they will die. They always think inside of them, a message always comes, no, you will live longer, you will live longer. Okay, people don't like to think of the reality that they will die. They always have this feeling that they are going to live forever. That's why people don't think of afterlife. They don't think. Most people think even if you die, you will die when you're old. Okay, but that is not reality. You can die at any moment. You will have to leave this world at any moment. So because people don't think that they will one day have to leave all of these things and die, the Supreme Buddha explains, because of that, people engage in misconduct. Now in this world, you see there are so many wars, right? People fight for land, people fight for property. Why? Because they don't think that one day they will die. If they thought of the Supreme Buddha explains, if a person thinks of death, then that person would not hold any grudges, would not engage in fights. Because what's the point, right? So the Supreme Buddha explains the reason that you should often think that you will die one day is it helps you to get rid of the intoxication with life. That's the third one. And when you get rid of the intoxication with life, it helps you to get rid of all misconduct in your life. It's because these ordinary people in the ordinary society don't think these three realities, that there are so many problems in this world. There are so many fights and wars and so many corruption in this world. Okay, so if a person thinks these realities, it really helps that person to control himself. And then the Supreme Buddha explains the fourth one. The fourth one is, for what sake do I say, for what benefit should a person, a man or a woman, a household or one gone forth, should often think that I must be parted and separated from everyone and everything dear to me. So why should you think this reality? Now, most of you said that you don't think this reality. Okay, so you see the benefit of thinking this reality. Okay, the Supreme Buddha explains, beings have desire and lust in regard to those people and things that are dear and agreeable to them. Okay, so people are attached, people have desire and lust towards. People have desire and lust towards people and things that are dear to them. And excited by this lust, they engage in misconduct by body, speech, and mind. Okay, so because of that strong attachment that we have to things that we love and people that we love, the Supreme Buddha explains that makes us engage in bodily misconduct. Okay, some people kill because of attachment towards someone, right? If someone you love is hurt by another person, okay, you go and kill that person. You go and hurt that person. That's how it works. It's a detachment that makes you do those wrong things. If you love someone, if you want to save that person, people go and lie, right? And that attachment, that strong attachment, is what makes people engage in misconduct. So the Supreme Buddha explains, people kill because of property. Property means things they love, right? The Supreme Buddha explains, if a person thinks of the reality that one will one day have to leave all of these things, I will have to become separated from the ones I love and the things I love, then that person's attachment, desire, or lust towards those things lowers. And therefore, gradually, what happens is that person does not engage in misconduct in regards to the ones they love and the things that they love. Okay. So it's for this sake that the Supreme Buddha asks us to reflect on the reality that we will one day have to leave the ones we love and the things we love. It helps us to lower the attachment that we have. Okay, so now this does not mean if you think this reality, you won't be able to live a happy family life. No, that's not the case. You can live a happy family life and you can fulfill your duties as a mother or a father or a husband or a wife. You can do all of those things. It's just that you're not strongly attached to those people. And therefore, you will not engage in any misconduct that will arouse you because of that strong attachment. Okay, because you understand that everything is only for a limited time and you'll have to leave. So that strong attachment is not there. And therefore, that strong desire will not make you do anything wrong. Okay. And the fifth is, the Supreme Buddha explains, for what sake do I say that a person should always reflect on the fact that I'm the owner of my own karma? The Supreme Buddha explains, people engage in misconduct by body, speech, and mind. But when one often reflects upon the fact that one is the owner of their own karma, that helps that person to abandon those misconduct. So when you always realize I'm the owner of my own karma, If I say good things, I will face good results. If I say bad things, I will have to face bad results. Then you try to control your words. If you always think, you know, kammasa kamana satta, then you will always try to control. You will not blame others. You will not scold others. You will not say harsh words to others, because you know that if you do so, you will have to face the results. So it really helps you to control your speech. And if you think that I will have to face the results of my own karma, then you will not do anything wrong to your body. You will not kill, you will not steal, you will not engage in sexual misconduct. Because if you do so, you're the one who will have to face the results, and those results can make you be reborn in a bad world in the next life. And if you come back to the human world, those results will come after you, and you will have to face it. Right? The Supreme Buddha explains, if a person always speaks harshly to others, okay, and hurts other people's feelings all the time, due to that karma, you can be reborn in a bad world. And even if you return back to the human world after a long time, you will always have to hear harsh sounds. Now, haven't you seen there are some kids from the moment they are born and from their childhood, they're in an environment where they hear harsh words. The parents are always blaming and yelling. They don't hear a single loving word. And even when they grow up and when they go to the workplace, they are in a very rough environment where they don't hear any nice loving word. Why? Because in their previous lives, they have said harsh words. So when you do something, the consequences come after you for a long time. You can't escape from it. Okay, so the Supreme Buddha says, if a person thinks of this reality, if I do what I do is what I will have to face. What I say is what I will have to face. What I think is what I will have to face. If you think this reality, then it really helps you to engage in, it helps you to abandon misconduct. Okay. And then the Supreme Buddha further explains, not only should you think of this for yourself, in relation to yourself, you should also think this in relation to others. The Supreme Buddha explains, this noble disciple also reflects thus, that is, I am not the only one who is subject to old age. All beings that come and go, all beings that pass away and undergo rebirth are subject to old age. Okay, so after you reflect these 5 things relating to yourself, you'd also think in relation to others. Okay, I'm not the only one who is subject to aging. All beings in this world are aging. So when you think that reality, when aging hits you, when you're old, and when it's your old age, you can accept it much positively, instead of letting your mind break apart. Why? Because everybody in this world has to face aging. Okay, I'm not the only one who age. My parents are aging, my children are aging. So you're always thinking the reality. The Supreme Buddha explains, when you think this reality, the path is generated. The path is generated, meaning then you enter the noble eightfold path. Now, this is the key thing. Okay, when you think these realities, the Supreme Buddha explains, the path is generated, meaning you're able to enter the path to Nibbana. And if a person enters the path to Nibbana, then that person is able to end with Nibbana. Okay, the Supreme Buddha explains, he pursues this path, develops it, and cultivates it. And as he does so, the fetters are entirely abandoned. Fetters means strong attachments that tie us to this world. And the underlying tendencies are uprooted. Underlying tendencies, the Pali word is anusaya, Anusaya means those deep hidden defilements within us. So if a person thinks of this reality in relation to himself and others, what happens is he's able to enter the path to Nibbana, and he develops that path and he ends in Nibbana by completely abandoning all defilements. Okay, in the same way, the Sariputta explains the noble disciple. This noble disciple reflects, I'm not the only one who is subject to illness. All beings that come and go, undergo rebirth, are subject to illness. Nobody is free from illness. So just like myself, my family, those around me, my friends, everybody in this world, they are subject to illness. So you think that reality. So when you think this reality, you're able to face reality without any problem, without letting your mind fall apart. The Supreme explains, the noble disciple think, I am not the only one who is subject to death. Everybody in this world is subject to death. Okay? And thinks, I am not the only one who has to become separated from the ones I love. Everybody in this world will have to become separated from the ones I love, once they love. And if a person thinks, I am not the only one who is the owner of my own karma, everybody in this world is they are the owner of their own karma. So the Supreme Buddha explains, if a person thinks these five themes in relation to himself and others, what happens is it opens the path. It opens this path to Nibbana. So this is a good place for us to start. It's something that everybody can think. Right? It doesn't take a lot of wisdom for a person to understand this. It requires a lot of wisdom for a person to understand the five aggregates of clinging, but it doesn't take a lot of wisdom for a person to start thinking like this. Okay, when you start to think like this, then your wisdom will grow gradually. Okay, and the Supreme Buddha explains, the path will be developed and all fetters will be abandoned and all underlying tendencies will be uprooted and you will be able to attain Nibbana. Okay, so simply thinking, and then at the end, the Supreme Buddha teaches summarizes this sutta in gathas. Okay, so if a person starts to practice these five things, this is a great sutta. If a person starts to reflect on these five themes, then that will help that person to generate the path to Nibbana. Okay, so let's go over the five things one more time. Often think, whether you're a man or a woman, whether you're ordained or whether you're a living lay person, often every day, often think, I'm someone who's aging. I'm not free from aging. Often think, I'm subject to illness. I'm not free from illness. I will fall sick at any moment. And third, always think, I'm subject to death. I can die at any moment. I can die tonight. I can die in 5 minutes. So you're always ready for that. You always make sure that you fulfill your duties, that you have done everything that you can, and you have collected merit in your life, you have done good things, and you have prepared for your next life. And so you're always ready. And fourth is always think that one day I will have to become separate from the ones I love and the things I love. I'll have to leave everything. All of these things I spend my entire life collecting, right? People spend their entire life collecting money, making houses, buying vehicles, and getting married and having children. And those are the things that people collect in their life. Think that all of these things I will have to leave one day. And when you leave this world, these things you love are not going to come with you. You'll have to go all alone by yourself. Nothing is going to come with you. Think of this reality. And the fifth is think that I'm the owner of my own karma. Okay? Karma is my heir. Karma is my relative. Karma is my refuge. If I do good things, I will face good results. If I do bad things, I will have to face bad results. Okay, so when you think of these 5 things, you're able to get rid of intoxication with intoxication with youth, intoxication with life, and intoxication with um, intoxication with health, intoxication with youth, and intoxication with life. And therefore, you're able to abandon misconduct in life. Okay, and then when you think in relation to others, that not just me, everybody else in this world is also aging. They are also subject to illness. They are also subject to death, and they'll also leave everybody that they love and cherish, and they are also the owner of their own karma. Then the Supreme Buddha explains that opens up your path to Nibbana. Okay, what that means is opening up the path to Nibbana means a person is able to become a stream entrant. If a person becomes a stream entrant, that is a Sotapanna disciple, he enters the path to Nibbana. And once you enter the path, you will definitely end at Nibbana. You will never have to go back. You will definitely develop your path and end with Nibbana. Okay, so because of that, this is a great sutta. If a person really take this sutta into their heart and practice this in their everyday life, then this is a great opportunity for us to develop the Dhamma path and get a good start, get a good start on reaching Nibbana. Okay, so may this beautiful sutta help all of us to get a good start on reaching Nibbana, develop the path, and realize Nibbana and escape from all suffering in this Gautam Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.